Hello and welcome to the Communities Connected podcast. I'm April Lamont, the host and CEO of Alisant. Today, I'm excited to share this episode with Danette Beal. Danette is our VP of Marketing. She's really the mastermind behind this episode.
Welcome, April. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be on the podcast. As you know, I've been a part of all of the podcasts this year, but haven't actually been on the podcast. So this is a really exciting change of pace for me.
About time.
Definitely. So today, April, we're going to be going into the vault and looking at a podcast that we released in 2025. This was our most popular podcast out of the entire year, and it is from John Darby, who is the CEO of the Beach Company. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Beach Company, or maybe you are, he is the mastermind and his team is the mastermind behind Kiawah River. And April, you had a chance to actually visit Kiawah River. Is that correct?
I did. I was there in September and got to see one of the most thoughtfully designed projects I've ever seen. And in the episode, John talks about how much attention they put on the entry and the first impression that they wanted to give their prospective residents. And it really is remarkable.
Yeah, it is the team. I've had a chance to meet John and his team with April, and they are a one-of-a-kind company. And we're really excited to rerun this podcast if you haven't listened to it, so you can hear directly from him what he's been working on and the experience that he's been creating at Kiawah River.
I am delighted to welcome John Darby from the Beach Company on this episode. John, thank you so much for taking time to be with us today. Do you mind starting out by just telling us a little bit more about yourself and how you made your way to where you are now?
Sure. Hi, April. Thanks for having me. I graduated in '85 from the Citadel in Charleston and went into the banking business. And I moved around several cities, Charlotte, Orlando, Greensboro, ended up in Columbia for a while, Columbia, South Carolina. And then my uncle, Charlie Way, who ran the beach company, approached me to come work there. So after a while, we agreed that I would come home and enter the family business. So I've been there since really late 1990.
So you mentioned that the Beach Company is a family business. It's not just a family business. It's 80 years strong, fifth generation strong. Can you tell us a little bit more about the legacy of the company?
Sure. When I joined in 1990, there was 18 employees. That included the receptionist, parking lot attendant, and the company had a lot of land that it owned, but it wasn't really a full-fledged development company. So for the first part of my career, we developed the land that we owned. It was good land. It was in great locations. Charleston was a thriving market where most of the land was located. And then in the early 2000s, we started acquiring land and building more. So, I mean, I would say, except for the recession, we have been 2, 3, 4 development projects we've started each year since then.
And it really started with your grandfather, is that right?
Right. J.C. Long, he acquired the Isle of Palms, which is a 4,000 acre Barry Island off of Charleston. And that time in America, people did a lot for the veterans who were coming home from the World War. So he bought the Isle of Palms really to build affordable housing for the veterans coming back from World War II. And that's how the company started. Fast forward to today, we're in 27 cities. We have all sorts of different components of the company. We're in the construction business. We manage. We're in the brokerage business. We have master plan communities and do a lot of mixed use development in the Southeast.
Yeah. And it strikes me anyway, and maybe you could share a bit more about that with us, is that you have a very unusual or unique structure as a company, and maybe that's helped contribute to now Generation 5 as part of the ownership structure.
Yeah, we're unique in a lot of ways. We have an independent board 5 independents, non-family board members, and 2 family board members. Our incoming president is a non-family member. Yeah, we're unique that we're in our 5th generation. I'm 3rd generation. So when we get together, it's about 110 of us, including spouses. Most companies, like 3 or 4% family businesses, make it to the 4th generation, and there really isn't any good data of who makes it to the 5th generation. So we're unique in a lot of different ways.
Well, it sounds like, you've had the good fortune to own good land. You've been in the path of progress, as you've described it. One of the other things that I recall you mentioning is how you invest in the communities and when you invest in the communities in which you're doing these projects. Can you talk a little bit more about that philosophy?
Yeah. So when we go to a city that we don't live there, we don't we're not natives of those parts, so we try to invest in the community wherever we do business, and you'll see us at a groundbreaking. We'll contribute to a nonprofit in the area, and same thing with the ribbon cutting. And that's just something that we have done for decades, and it's goodwill, but it also, it's we feel like it's the right thing to do. We want to be welcome, and it's a way to accomplish that.
Yeah. No, that's terrific. And of course, you have that very strong legacy in your own backyard there in Charleston. So it's how do you spread that? And I'm sure you're relying on their workforce and their residents for the future success of those projects. So just makes a whole lot of sense. I'd like to turn our attention to Kiawah River because that's where our paths crossed. This amazing project, like most of these projects, it can be a slog to get them entitled and out of the ground. And you're asking people to do things they haven't done before, maybe at the county or municipal level. Can you tell us a little bit about how that whole project came to be?
Sure. We purchased Kiawah River, and back then it was called Mullet Hall, and it was a very popular place to go hunting and play with nature, beautiful oak trees and wildlife. And we bought it thinking that everything else that was happening on Johns Island, this land would appreciate faster than most. So fast forward about almost 20 years, we thought it was time to entitle it and develop it and so forth. So we approached the county. We're not in a municipality. And it took us 10 years to entitle the property. Didn't have sewer, so we had to design and get a private sewer system in place. Didn't have any zoning. And it was the first development agreement ever done in Charleston County. So and then we went through the Great Recession in the middle of all that. So we came out the other end and teamed up with a close family, friends that go back, 80 plus years, the Maynard family, and the two of us invested and developed the property. So I can keep going about.
Definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
because you're kind of in the shadow of a big, well-known development called Kiawah Island, right? And that has all kinds of perceptions and expectations, like vis-a-vis Kiawah Island. How did you think about Kiawah River?
Yeah. So you have Seabrook Island, Kiawah Island, all established, very successful communities. And so we're thinking, okay, well, what will Kiawah River be? We didn't have the ocean. We're surrounded by Gulf. And Diana Permar, who done some research for us over the years at Kiawah Island, I'll never forget meeting with her, and she said, you need to differentiate yourself from what's around you, Kiawah Island, Seabrook, and have your own identity. And we thought about that, and we said, she's right. Let's embrace the wildlife, the nature, make it very casual. That even though we were zoned to build a big hotel, we went with a boutique high-end hotel, no club. And so far it's been the right decision.
One of the things that I've learned more about and you've shared with me is this whole idea of leaving. There were a couple farmers there on this land as well, and kind of took the mindset of leave them be. So, like, what became of that part of the property? It's interesting.
I get the question a lot, how did you plan the agrihood? In all of our research and design charrettes, we never even said the word. We're like, we want to be an agrihood. It just happened. And there were some farmers that have been on the property for generations, decades. The Limehouse family, the Freeman family, these are well-known people on Johns Island. And so we said, look, we don't need this land today. We may not ever need, it could be open space. Let's just work around the farmers and see how that goes. And that led to the goatery, who is, basically they raise about 150 goats and they have goat milk, goat cheese. People can come visit, have events. They have goat yoga every Saturday morning. And then that they have chickens and they have pigs and then long after that we have livestock. We have cattle out there, beef cattle, and that it just happened by itself. And it's over 100 acres of. I mean, when you think about the farm stand where they sell the produce and where they grow it and the livestock, it's bigger than most agri-hoods that you hear about in different places. So it just happened, and it's become a huge amenity, if not the best amenity at Kiawah River. And not everybody wants to go down there and dig up sweet potatoes, but some do, and they love the fact that that I'm eating off the land, and they buy their produce and feed their families, and
It's
they
very
go to,
authentic to the
yeah,
space, to
yeah,
the land itself. So I'm sure it feels
yeah,
like part of being home.
and and some of the highest priced homes overlook the farm, the farm
Well,
part.
and speaking of that, didn't you have the Southern Living Home of the Year
We
last
did.
year?
We had the Southern Living Idea Home. It was built by Diller Jones, MHK Architects, designed it. Ellison Elabash did the interior. Design Works did the landscaping. It had over 20,000 visitors, and they built it in 1 year from start to finish. It's the first time we've ever been involved with the Southern Living Idea Home. And it came to be because one of the associates at Southern Living had Charleston roots, and she recommended that you look at Kiawah River. So it happened real fast. We're so glad it happened. No other way we could have brought 20,000 people through Kiawah River, and some of those people eventually, contacted us about real estate and bought a home. So, and the home sold at a high mark, about 5.4 million, and it's gorgeous.
I was looking through the article from the magazine last night, and it was really fascinating where in the community they chose to build that home. Because I imagine you probably would have let them build anywhere they wanted to, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, they choose to be right next to the farm. They could have been on the river. They could have been closer to the spring house, which is our premier amenity, but they went there. Now they do have in the back of the home, they do have a beautiful view of, it's a water view. But no, they're right as you come in, they're right next to the goatery and the farm, and they're in the thick of it.
That's amazing. You know, you mentioned Belinda Seward's name to me yesterday when we were chatting,
Yeah,
and
Belinda Sword.
Sword, excuse me, yeah,
Yeah, Belinda Sword. Yeah.
Belinda Sword, and she asked a really good question, right?
So we brought Belinda in to do a survey. We really wanted to figure out our target market. What kind of person and who would want to live at Kiawah River, and this type of community. And she did extensive research. I mean, she had survey groups and multiple survey groups. And she came back and she said, these are the 30 top things that you should consider to have in your community. The top 5 was nature, health, food experience, art, and art could be music or, different forms of art, walkability, trails, and the high-end amenity, with the pool. The golf and ocean access and so forth, it wasn't even on top 30. And this is pre-recession. Pre-COVID. This was pre-COVID. So, I think the golf piece has changed, but that's interesting. Some of the top 5. But the other thing she said is when your customer comes to review the property, they are more committed than your normal prospect. If you want to live in the Charleston region, there's dozens of communities you can go look at. If you want to live on Johns Island and have this type of atmosphere and things to do in community, there's not many. So she said when they come, they know what they're looking for. And she was spot on. I mean, there's a high conversion rate when someone makes the appointment and comes there. They are already, 50, 80% committed. You just need to make sure you can fit them in a house that they want and so forth. And we went back and surveyed some of the homeowners and says, when did you know this is where you wanted to live? Many of them said the ride in. And the ride in, it does have a little bit of everything Kiawah River is about. You see wildlife, you see water, you see the farm. It represents the lifestyle here well. The other thing is we get this comment a lot, is it really does look like you're marketing. You go to your website, you go to the brochure or whatever, social media, and when we come here, it really represents Kiawah as you said it would be.
This episode is brought to you by Alisant, the leading resident experience platform for 100-plus master-planned communities, elevating lifestyle throughout the entire homeowner journey. With an Alisant-powered app, your community keeps residents and homebuyers informed, engaged, and connected.
Yeah, and it's almost like they're validating what they hope they're going to find on that drive in, because you've done such a good job representing what they're going to find that they just want to validate that. And of course, find the right home. And I know you have lots of options there as well. A project like this and is really exciting. I know for your community and for St. John's Island, it doesn't come without a few bumps and bruises along the way. And I always love asking this question of developers because it all looks good, looking back in the rearview mirror. But were there some lessons that you learned along the way that you want to share with others?
Yeah, they're not unique. I mean, I think anyone building a community like this probably has the same challenges. Communication is always a challenge. We do a newsletter. We put a lot of time and effort in communication, but you just can't make everybody follow it and read it. We just invested in the app. We think it's going to do really well.
We do too. We're so excited.
So that's been well received. I think a little over 80% of the community is already signed up and is tracking life here on the app. Construction traffic, it's an ongoing battle. We have all different vendors, subcontractors coming on the property every day and policing that. I mean, we do the best we can, but it's just an ongoing challenge. And then resident expectations. We did not design the community around a club. We wanted to stay away from atmosphere of the have and the have not. So you remember the club or not. So everyone has access to everything. And we do try to present a club atmosphere, but it's not a club. The property owners pays for most of all of that. But resident expectations is always a challenge in managing that. we do have a vision and insight committee with some residents, and we get together every so often and discuss, how we can make the community better. What are you hearing out there, challenges and so forth. And then the other is just integrating a hotel, a very high-end hotel, which at the Dunlin, which is an Auberge hotel, with the residents.
Yes, of the hotel.
And that's going really well, probably better than we all expected, but it's a challenge. It's not something you can just turn your back on, say it'll work out. We are very sensitive to it. And the Dunlin is a huge amenity to the residents, and they have a lot of pride in the hotel as well. So
That's an auberge hotel.
yes.
And they know how to do things right.
Say again?
They know how to do things right.
Oh yeah, they do a great job. It's been open now for since August. And we've had a really good start. Has a tremendous event venue, a lot of weddings, corporate events, going well.
That's awesome. John, before we wrap up, I would love to come back to you and ask you a couple of questions to get to know you a bit better. The first that we ask our guests is about sources of inspiration. What do you look to keep yourself at the top of your game and enthusiastic and excited and leading a big team? And what fuels you?
Well, I talk to interesting, smart people like you. So it's a combination of a host of things. Listening to podcasts, books. I go to several conferences every year, and you get great ideas. But I would probably say that my travels, visiting different places, particularly similar to what we do at the beach company. I always come home and I say inspired, and I always say, we can do that, and so I would say I get good ideas or good things to think about that that we could practice here at Kiawah River or anywhere in the beach company. But there's when we decided to go forward with Kiawah River, we visited a lot of successful places, and one thing developers do well is they learn from each other, and typically the developers are anxious to share it with you, and share what worked and what didn't, and we do the same. And I would say that's probably why I get a lot of my best ideas and inspiration.
That's
Good
awesome.
question.
The last question, just to wrap things up, and sometimes I think really the most important one, it's what advice would you give the 25-year-old John Darby, kind of knowing what you know now and what you've been through? Can you reflect back on some advice you would offer?
I would say practice patience. When I was 25, I just wanted everything to move at lightning speed, right? And even today, you think about it, with technology and every business, everything that's made is how quickly can we do it? And you just can't rush real estate. So I for a 25-year-old, the best advice I could offer you is what the career that I'm in. And I would just say practice patience, to do real estate, particularly, a master plan community. It takes time. And it's not always about what you create. It's sometimes what you protect. And if you do it right, you won't just build something, you'll create a legacy for future generations. So, and that's maybe a lot for someone right out of college to understand. I'm not sure I would have, but it's coming your way. You can't, it's just some things you just can't rush. And some of the best projects out there, best communities or whatever they may be, you will understand how long it took for those things to happen. I hope that helps. Yeah.
It will. We have a fair number of young professionals who listen to this podcast because they get to hear directly from people like you. And it's probably one of the most popular questions. So great advice. I agree with you. Would have been hard to follow at that age, but I don't know. I think they're making them smarter than when I was a kid anyway. So hopefully they can take that to heart. John, this has been Such a pleasure. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. Appreciate you candor and sharing and letting us know more about the beach company and Kiawah River.
Thank you, April.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Communities Connected, a land and lifestyle podcast by Alisant. Join the conversation. We'd love to hear what you think on our Alisant LinkedIn page. Learn more at alisant.com.